Welcome to the Permaculture Herbalism segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I'm your co-host, Taj Cicluna of Botanical Education, a botanical educator, bioregional herbalist, and awe seeker. My work advocates for bioregional herbalism, where the well-being of ecosystems is held in equal regard to that of individuals. Through this lens, I strive to weave connection between communities, both human and other than human, cultivating a deep and reciprocal practice of herbalism. In this series, I'll be speaking with progressive permaculturalists and regenerative farmers who are reimagining how we grow, relate to, and heal with plants. Together, we'll explore how we can integrate plants into our homes, gardens, and daily lives as allies in connection and resilience. Join us as we delve deep into the art and science of permaculture herbalism, a living, breathing design system rooted in care, creativity, and renewal. Hello, lovely Elder Tree podcast listeners. Before we get into our chat with the wonderful Carolyn Parker today, I have some exciting news to share with you, and that is that the Botanical Education online version of the Herbal Apprentice is currently open. So this is only for 5 days, and we're very proud of this program because it is actually designed to be hands-on, even though it is an online program. So we really encourage people to get outside into the garden, into their kitchens, get sensory with the herbs, and actually start to make medicines. Now, we also are very proud of this because we encourage people to understand why we're using herbs and how to use herbs appropriately for a situation. So instead of just following a recipe blindly and not necessarily understanding what you're doing or why, we encourage the critical thinking behind herbalism so that you can continue your herbal learning after the course is done. So although this is an 8-module self-paced program, we really hope that we are giving you the tools to continue your learning after the course finishes. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in and you've wanted to learn with me for a while, but you were scattered across the globe, then now is your time to join the Herbal Apprentice online. The doors are only open for 5 days, and I'll put all of the details in the show notes. I hope to see you there. Yay! Okay, I am excited to speak to fellow herbalist extraordinaire. We've got Carolyn Parker here, which I'm excited because this is basically like us talking and having a coffee, and I'm just about to leave to go on an adventure, and it means that I get to have a chat to you before I go. So welcome,
Yay.
Carolyn.
This could go for a while. We get quite rambly, don't we?
We do get rambly, but hopefully people will follow our rambles with delight.
A little garden
Some
adventure.
people, our garden adventures. And I think that a lot of people will know you from your delightful book, The Medicinal Garden. So
Yep.
I'm really excited to speak to you about medicinal gardening, and because you're one of those gardeners that has really honed in on medicinal gardening specifically as well, which not a lot of people do. There are more and more, but I feel like you've really gone into that niche. And you also, so you're known as the cottage herbalist. You've
hmm
got the book, The Medicinal Garden, and you run workshops, you're a gardener, and you've got your own little tea blend company as well.
Yep. Yep. So they all kind of fit under the umbrella of the cottage herbalist. And just as you're saying that, it just makes me go, yeah, it's all related to kind of home and place. So they're all things that I have in my immediate surroundings and share with people.
Yeah, which it makes sense for your name as well, the cottage herbalist. Like you've got
Mm.
your little studio, cottage studio, and it is really, quaint.
and close to home, and everything for you is, quite based on accessibility. It's one of the things that I like about you and your work the most, is that you make the world of herbalism really accessible to people. You don't try and overcomplicate it. You don't try and, make it so grand and unattainable. You really keep that close to home feeling for people, so that it's something that they can, that make part of their lives.
Yeah, I kind of, you say that and I think back to myself when herbs first kind of came into my life, and I was just a average suburban kid with parents that dragged me along to open gardens and nurseries, and the sweetener of the deal was like a packet of seeds or a seedling, and it went from there. And I think about, yeah, little 12-year-old Caroline, and speaking to her and the kind of things that I was interested in then and still am. So I think that's who I speak to.
So it's been actually a part of your life for a very long time. You had parents that fostered this within you, and you, as a 12-year-old, were excited about seedlings and seed packets.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was anything, consciously. Like I've got an Air Force dad and a mum who was a nurse, and they kind of just had, I don't know, no offense, mum, I wouldn't have called it a fabulous garden, but she was just always in there, and it was kind of part of our day to day. Be like, where's mum? And she's outside with her trowel and hand weeder, waging a war on things coming up through the paving or dandelions in the lawn. And yeah, it's just, yeah, or she'd if it was a nice day, she'd lock us outside
Mm.
and be like,
And that
yeah,
you became friends with the dandelions.
yeah, or making fairy gardens, or running
Mm.
toy cars over rock walls and adventures. So yeah, lots of that kind of imagination in nature kind of play, but
Mm.
yeah, really kind of suburban, not like kind of twee or anything, just pretty average.
I love that. I wonder how much, that imaginative play influences your gardening now as well, and keeping that sense of, wonder that I think, to be honest, I really think I love food gardening as well, but medicinal gardening is just something else. There's a sense of awe and mystery as well to medicinal plants that I love.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I'm
wonder
kind of
if you
like
get a
a
sense of that.
yeah, sometimes I'm a just like stick something in and see how it goes, and I don't specifically sit down and design or plan it out, but I think of my garden as having these like little pockets of experiences. So from my kitchen window, I was going to plant, some raised veggie beds there, but I was like going, well, maybe this should be like a little dining room here, and that influenced
Hmm.
the herbs that I planted in that area. So that's where most of my kitchen herbs are. So I'm looking out of my window and I can see those, and the window opens there, and
Mm.
I get to watch the seasons interact on those herbs through my window and watch the little birds play in there. Like at the moment, I'm looking out that window and I can see little wrens. Just I've left lots of things with their seed heads on, and the little wrens are just like going nuts in the bronze fennel seeds, and that's where I get that kind of whimsy and wonderment from. That just like observation and taking in that nature.
Yeah, the whimsy and wonder. It's a integral part of herbalism for me, and I really like the idea of, um you're approaching gardening through little zones of, uh creating little areas and of experiences, really,
Mm.
rather than, coming at it from a full kind of horticultural landscape design perspective. It's really, I guess, based on the experience of being in and interacting with the garden, rather than just what it's going to yield.
Yeah, it's like for me, it's a a feeling like my house is little, and sometimes it can feel like a little bit contained. So by having those little kind of rooms or experiences in the garden, it's inviting me outside regardless of the weather. Like there's one spot which we call it's the gin and tonic spot.
What's in the gin and tonic spot?
It's a spot. It's still in progress, but I've got some juniper hedges that are going to go there. But it's informed by there's this cute little metal round table and chairs that I found on a buy swap and sell page, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good spot for a gin and tonic. Like it gets the afternoon sun in late summer, good with daylight savings time, and yeah, I can watch what's going on here. So that's the gin and tonic spot.
I love that, because it's a spot not only to have a gin and tonic, but then you're going to plant gin and tonic type herbs around that spot.
Yeah.
Which
So
I
that's
think
kind
is
of
really beautiful.
Yeah, that's the kind of extent of my planning, is just daydreaming and imagining spaces into existence. And I think I share that.
Daydreaming and imagining spaces into existence.
Yeah, I share that with my workshops. So it's like people go, where do you start? What do you plant? And it's just like pick a theme or something that excites you and go on a little choose your own adventure from there.
I think it's important to go with people's excitement as well. I think sometimes so many people can be bogged down in the details that they forget to, lend themselves to the vision and the process. I always say to people, as a gardener, you will kill things. It is, if obviously you want to minimize that, but while you learn about things and while you learn, it just sometimes happens. Sometimes you get an early frost, or something floods, or like who knows what happens. And you can try and future proof and foolproof things as much as you can, but you're also working within a living system that sometimes can be quite harsh and isn't, like, not everything is your fault.
And then things change. Like I've been in my place for about 12 or 13 years, and it's like the seasons are changing. So you might have this overarching idea of a plan, and I think lots of people can get really stuck on it having to be that way. And I think once I did do a plan, but I've realized it has to be adaptable and ebb and flow with nature. Like it's not stagnant, it's always changing. So I feel like as a gardener I have to be that way as well.
A living design, which means that it's constantly changing. And I like that, you don't necessarily design things, but I'm sure that when you get in the garden, you can envision things, where things will go and why. Like, do you think in terms of color or layering, or, what are the kind of things that really inform your decisions of where to plant?
So in my garden, like we've got the hard landscaping of our fence, which is, we try and use a mix of things that we buy, but also just like foraged and found things. So they kind of influence things. So some of it I want to hide, so I'm like, I'm going to plant a beautiful climbing rose over that. Or I think about the habit of plants. I think when I started I didn't think of those things, but that's something that I've learned along the way. Or if you've done any garden design, it's probably Captain Obvious, but I hadn't. But now I kind of like think about the height of things going to be. So I've got just a random marshmallow planted, and like I'm 6 foot tall and I raise my arm in the air, and that's even taller than my arm. And
Yeah,
in
weedy.
retrospect, I'm like, I probably would have put that somewhere else. But then I kind of like it there. It's got a
Yeah,
story
I
to it.
wonder.
It's like a signal of learning. But that's seasonal too. So
Are
at
there
the
many
moment, it's
things that
like,
in yeah. Yeah, I wonder, are there many things that you have in retrospect, whether it's in this garden or another garden, gone, oh, actually, in hindsight, I don't think that I would do that again. Any particular plants or and why?
oh, I think we've both done this one golden seal, goldenrod,
Goldenrod,
goldenrod. Excuse me. I
or is
I
it
do that all the time.
goldenrod? Yeah, yeah, I've done that too. It's yes, so do
um,
I. Um, yeah,
I've
goldenrod
been
is
thinking of
definitely one
them.
for me that I've made a faux pas.
Yeah, I planted some, but I think I got it out in time. So that one has a tendency to get quite weedy. I mean, lots of the herbs that we like to use as herbalists are on that borderline of being useful or a pest. So it's just a matter of when. But the funny thing is, I've just pulled it out, and I came home about a week or two ago, and there's a box of something on my veranda, and it's a box of it that someone had dug out of their garden for me to plant in mine. They went, oh, it would look really good down exactly where I had planted it. So I was like, well, maybe I might reconsider taking it out because it's kind of come up again, and they've recommended planting it in the spot that I've just removed it from.
Yeah, you just have to really be onto, I guess, edging, like, because it suckers and it goes through things so much. I guess it has to be, you got to be mindful of how much that'll sucker, and I guess the seeds depending on your area. But I did want to ask you, like, is there uh, any consideration, or how do you consider conservation within your gardening? Are there certain herbs that you won't plant, or certain herbs that you deadhead so that they don't seed? Is there anything like that within your practice?
Yeah, so I've got well, it's funny, these are things that I haven't intentionally planted, but I think through my own wanderings and people dropping plants by my front door, they've ended up in my garden. So verbascum, so woolly mullein, has ended up in my garden, and I know that could potentially be quite problematic. So I just make sure I stay on top of deadheading or picking the flowers of that one. So making sure that it doesn't go to seed, because we've already got the weedy version is really prolific in this region. So that one's the twiggy mullein. But yeah, I've had things kind of take over. I've got a raspberry patch that I probably would have planted in a different spot, but I was like, there's no hope of getting rid of it where it is. But so I've just learnt to kind of work with it and enjoy it. What else is there? There's horseradish that's really hard to contain, but I use it, so I don't really mind it. It kind of creeps up in the path, but I just dig it up and pop it back in the bed. So I think, yeah, if you've got like a smaller garden, potentially have a bit more of a think about those kind of things. I kind of just let them do their thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that style as well. Oh, you're working with the plants as well. You're seeing them grow, and then you're having an interaction with them. Okay, like, oh, so I'll pick the flowers now so they don't go to seed. And I guess that what I understand about the way that you work with your garden is that you're in relationship with it all the time. It's
Yeah,
not just a Sunday thing to do, or you don't just do the design and then it's fixed in place. It's you constantly with the garden and evolving with it, and I think that's a really great way to be, and it helps other people, I think, get started, because I think that some people I think they feel as though it has to be perfect, or they have to,
Mhm.
do this grand design before putting things in place. I also think people have a really skewed idea because of things like backyard blitz. They have a
Oh
skewed
god.
idea of how long gardens take, and especially ecosystems take to form. You're creating like little ecosystems, and they take a while to actually grow and establish and get rooted and flourish.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about our garden. It is one of my intentions of it was to make it feel like it was, even though I live regionally and I live on acreage. We've made kind of zones of the garden, so the area that I'm most productive in is scale. It's like suburban backyard scale, and there's things in there that you can even like downsize even more into, a potted, a, garden pot. So I've got pots of things as well, and I wanted people to be able to visit my garden and not feel, I guess, intimidated by it. And
Mm.
because we kind of just like potter along at things, it hasn't been like that backyard blitz where it's a design, you've got the money, you buy all of the things and you do it, over, like, well, on those shows it's like a couple of hours, but you do it over a couple of weeks or a
Yeah,
month, and then you've
a
kind
weekend.
of planted the garden and you're done. um yeah, ours is just kind of ever evolving, and like you were saying, we're responding to the
Mm.
landscape, we're responding to our lifestyle, we're responding to changes in the weather. Whereas I think if we had come into this property and just kind of started the garden and done it straight away, we wouldn't have been informed by all of that. It's kind of like us
Mm.
imposing ourselves on a garden rather than responding to the place that we find ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is a really great ecocentric way of thinking as well, responding to the place that you find yourself, because I think that often humans can want to impose what they think that they want, or um yeah, want to see in a space. And we sometimes have to ask ourselves the question of where do we find ourselves, and what kind of plants will actually like to thrive in that area. What are we working with? Who are we working with here?
Yeah, and I spent, I still do, I just visit other gardens in the region and other nurseries. And, I'm lucky we're in an area that has just so many amazing professional gardeners and then backyard gardeners that I've been able to learn from and watch what they're doing. But then, the plants in my garden teach me lessons. Like an example is like I wanted to plant some chamomile, and I decided what I thought was the best place for this chamomile plant, and it was just like, no thank you. And promptly
Nah.
just was like, nah, I'm dying. And I was like, oh geez. And I'd go to other people's gardens and they have this lush chamomile bush, and I had just this straggly thing that gave up on life pretty quickly. But perhaps it was a season a season later, it's moved to my backyard. So it's gone from the front part of my garden to the backyard. It must have set seed, and it's done that, and it's
This is
growing in
where
the
it likes being.
most inhabitable place that I would have imagined. So it's like a gravel area in the backyard leading up to my fire bath, growing out the side of a concrete paver. I was like,
This is
oh,
what
okay,
I noticed.
yeah,
Yeah, with chamomile, the chamomile in my garden seeded all in the paths, but wouldn't grow in the garden bed. So they obviously like compaction.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
And I kept
And
trying to
so
transplant
yeah,
them, and then they kept saying no.
I've managed to finally, like, it took a while, successfully transplant it, and I just kind of leave it to its own devices. But yeah, it was kind of a lesson of just going, yeah, the plants know where they belong, and all of my reading and book learning it wasn't having any of that. It was just like, nah, I'm going here.
Yeah, I think that book learning can sometimes be inhibit people in a way. So, first of all, sometimes people, not that I'm against researching what you're doing. However, I think that sometimes people can be scared to act until they've read it in a book somewhere instead of interacting with the land around them. But also, I feel like books and websites say these really arbitrary things because it's very place and climate specific. So sometimes you get a book that says transplant seedlings after 4 to 6 weeks or something. It's like, well, first of all, what plant are we talking about? What region are we talking about? Because I could be on one side of a mountain and the other side of a mountain, and the amount of solar hours will differ drastically, and that will make a huge difference to when I transplant my seedlings. So I remember one of my friends asking me this once, and I said, well, I end up going with the leaves. Like, look at how many true leaves they start to have. And if they've got a decent amount of true leaves, then it feels like their roots are robust enough to put in the ground. In looking for tales that the plants are telling, the plant story, rather than just, okay, this arbitrary amount of time that doesn't keep you involved with the environment.
Oh, that's really good advice. I like that. I'm going to take that one on board because, sometimes I have been known to do that, just kind of arbitrary, generic thing. I guess sometimes you have to start somewhere, don't we? We have to start somewhere, and then
Exactly, yeah.
then we learn those things from chatting to other gardeners. And just you said that, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. Just
I
take.
think that as well. Well, that's what's so interesting about learning, and I think that we just get like focused sometimes on a calendar, um, and sometimes it can. Yeah, we do have to start somewhere because it's the calendar that we have. And often I think about this with gardening because I do feel like sometimes gardening requires you to be out on certain days. You want to transplant something when the soil is damp enough, or it requires you to have a relationship with the weather and what's going on. But not everyone can do that because people, we've got to, we've got lives and we've got
Mhm.
work and commitments and responsibilities, and we can't just say, oh no, I'm not coming to work today because the soil is at its peak point for transplanting. So, we've got to work with what we have. And I think that that's why we sometimes use these scales of time.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way. I'd love to call someone and be like, yeah, sorry, I'm not coming to work because of the soil. I have sent someone a picture of a
The
dog
plants are
and said,
ready.
sent a client a picture of a dog and said, sorry, I'm late. I'm patting someone's dog that I saw at the cafe on my way. And they're like, oh, yeah, fair call. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah. That's a totally fine thing to do. Dog distraction.
I feel really privileged that I have worked, I've kind of worked to try and create a small business life where I can try and live by the two calendars. Like, I've got a foot in both camps. So, I still have to have a watch and go by what I do. I call it calendar time, but then I go, oh right, we're in hot water bottle season. We're in flannel sheet season.
Oh, I
We're
like
in
that.
we're in stack collecting and stacking wood season. We're in elderflower season. I kind of like to
Hmm.
incorporate those, and for a while I was marking those on the calendar, but things are changing, so it's not kind of
Mm.
fitting as much as it used to. Used to be able to go, okay, November
I
is
like.
is the season that I'm doing this, but it's not so much the last few years.
No. No, that's why we need like other kind of signposts to tell us rather than it just, yeah, we've got to, I guess, respond to the environment that we're in. And yeah, I'm actually interested. I had a question for you
Mm.
that I wanted to explore today for listeners as well.
Mhm.
Thinking about, okay, imagining getting onto a patch. Like I know that we're talking about obviously responding to what's there, but
Mhm.
if you get onto a patch and it's a little bit of a blank patch in a way, nothing is really blank, but it's you don't have any herbs planted or anything like that. I'm interested in where you start. Do you do certain techniques for weed suppression? Do you make soil first? Do you um end up like ever like buying in soil? But like what would your process be? And obviously it's dependent on probably your client and your
Mhm.
environment, but do you have certain things that you've really learnt as a starting point?
Oh, the first thing I did when we moved here was build a compost heap. So we got our compost going first, and I probably went too I went too big, and I've downscaled. We're in the process of downscaling that, and it was too
You
far
can't
away
have
from.
too big a compost, surely.
Perhaps it's too far away. It's too far away from our house, so
Okay.
yeah, we had like a 3 bay system, and now we've got like a couple of tumblers closer to the house. Also, just remember
Okay.
I'm on over half an acre, so it was on the other side. Where do I start? So at the moment, I'm in a process of we've got a lawned area on our yard that's quite hilly, and I want to reduce the amount of lawn that we have. I use the term lawn lightly because it's mainly like moss and plantain and dandelions and weeds. It's lovely. Yeah, I'm reclaiming that into some kind of. I want to do some borders, and I'm putting a labyrinth in there. So my process for kind of doing that is I've just
Mm.
been collecting uh, cardboard from my own business and going into the local town and the retailers there and just nabbling up all their cardboard. And I'm doing that kind of have doing kind of 2 or 3 layers of cardboard and then like composting and mulching and then just letting it sit for a season just to kind of suppress that lawn and break down because we've got really, really heavy clay. It's quite active though. There's still heaps of fat, juicy earthworms in there. And then while that's happening, I'm kind of just imagining what plants I might like to plant there. So having a think about
Mm.
the aspect, the kind of sunshine, what herbs are kind of piquing my interest, or looking at other gardens that have a similar aspect to mine and exploring their plants and seeing if they fit with what I want to do. So this is probably going to be a bit more of a designed,
Mm.
thought out garden, I think. But yeah, it's
I
just
like
that kind of
I
like,
like a labyrinth.
yeah, I've been daydreaming of one for
A
about
labyrinth, I
10,
think is great.
10 years. So
Mm.
yeah, it's there. I've just got to get
So
around to doing it.
you've been starting with building the compost and
Hmm.
then sheet mulching and
Yep.
then thinking about what aspect you have and climate and also what herbs you're excited about at that time as well and piquing your interest ready to put in. um
Yeah, I'm
yeah, always
like
starting with
long.
compost I think is a great one.
Yeah, yeah, and this one, it's like part of it, it's backing onto the border of my property, so it's like just a kind of wire fence at the moment that I'm slowly weaving sticks through to turn it into a foraged and found version of those fancy stick fences that people are doing. And I was like, I think I need a hedge along there. So I've been first I imagined like an amazing like a hydrangea hedge, like that would look really pretty. And then I was like, oh no, but
Mm.
maybe I want it to be productive. This is a thing that's changed for me. When I first started, I was like, oh, everything has to be productive. It needs to be kind of edible or medicinal or that. And then I was like, now I'm like, no, a garden in and of itself is a thing of beauty, and it just being there is enough for me. And that is medicinal, just being able to look at it, to be in it is enough. So I was like, maybe I could grow maybe like an elder and a lilac hedge interspersed together, and then I'm like, oh, maybe it could be a juniper hedge. So we're still we're still playing around with that. So I've got some juniper in
I
pots sitting there, just seeing what they think.
I think that's a really good way of doing it as well, putting things in pots in certain places and seeing how they respond for a little while. And I know that you and I have talked about this before, because I've also become much more of a flower gardener, as well as things that are like quote unquote productive, because that's productive for us, but we also have to think about what's productive for the landscape and insects and things like that. And it's also just, beauty is a function. It's so nice to have, we're the house with all the flowers,
Mm-hmm.
at the farm. Everyone says like, oh, you're the house with all the flowers. And I was like, yes, that is us. And we like being known as that house. It's beautiful to come home to.
It is. It's like, and then while we're chatting about productivity, it's like I think you and I were both thinking a lot about we've our culture values things have to have like a product, and it's like, does it? And so it's
Yeah.
like I'm thinking about what my value is outside of what we consider my work. Like I'm a bit out of action with a bung knee at the moment, so it's like, well, who am I if I'm not working? And it's like, well, you're just you, and you're lovely as you are. And it's the same with the garden. It doesn't need to necessarily be like productive. It's just good because it's just nature,
Yeah.
and
Or
it is and it exists. That's valuable.
Yeah, we often see things in terms of functionality, and I also think of we're just part of such a disposable culture that it's almost like, especially with work, we feel like we can be easily discarded if someone else can do the task or do the job, and we're not really seen as what we as an individual can bring to a certain role or a certain place. And I think it's really good to try and go against that grain a little bit, and for that to be embodied in our gardens as well. We love you for you. You don't have to always be producing and functioning for us to actually appreciate what's there.
Yeah, yeah. I just
Mm.
I think
And
also
I wonder with your, oh,
I was
you
going to
go.
say I think
Sorry.
also with like taking that pressure off, a garden having to give us a product, it kind of allows us the space to just be in the moment and just exist as well. Mm.
Mm, definitely. I wonder. I've been thinking about this a lot. I always think about this a lot, and because you work, you host workshops a lot, and you also work in gardens. I wonder if you have given thought or been asked the questions about land accessibility, and if you can offer anything to people that are renting or don't feel like they have access to a large garden, because the number of people that have access to land is dwindling now
Mhm.
as well. Only certain people get that privilege. So I wonder if you have any responses to this, or if you even think of broad responses to an issue like this. So whether you want to go detailed and have some specific guidance for specific people, or whether you have thought about the more broad solution to something like this. Obviously, ownership is a really big can of worms, but
Mm.
yeah.
It's huge. I think back to when you know, we're yeah, we're really lucky in that we are kind of land holders. That was like just a serendipitous time that I think, you know, if if it was now, we wouldn't be able to do this. It was just a time in history that we enabled us to do that as well. And I used to think, oh, cool, this will be great to kind of show people that they can live pretty small and that, but it's like times have changed so much. But I think back to when we were renting, we started off with like meter square garden beds. There was this great little book that I found at an op shop called One Magic Square, and I think that really, got me into growing stuff in my rentals, because I knew that I could have like a potato box or an IBC, and that's really good for if you've got like kind of courtyard space. But prior to that, I've just always grown herbs in pots. Like at my family home, Mum gave me like a section of the pergola and some pots, and it was like that was my little herb section, and they're just really portable. So if you have to move, you can take those herbs with you. They're not kind of like left for the landlord to dig out or the next tenants to neglect. You can take them with you. And then where I live, there's, you know, quite a few community gardens. There's neighbourhood centres where gardens have been planted, and so I've been looking at working with places like that. I remember last year I was down at Ceres doing my introduction to therapeutic horticulture, and it's just like absolutely loved going down to that space and that garden being accessible and open for anyone to enjoy. Yeah, making use of our public lands. Like we've got room in Blackwood. There's a few of us considering where if we can start a community garden. But then those things, like I think in communities,
Amazing.
like we kind of get this like steam and enthusiasm for things, but they kind of go in waves. So being able to maintain that momentum can be an issue, but I don't think it should stop people from giving it a whirl.
Yeah, definitely. And I do like the, container gardening is like one thing that I really got into renting was I've got a pot here that has, and it's actually just, quite a small pot. What is it? Probably 450 mil, and it's got thyme and sage and lemon balm and sorrel and Vietnamese mint, and it's got so many herbs just in that one zone that are spilling out, and then having other pots like half wine barrels or something and doing little guilds. Like you'd be surprised how much you can fit into such a small space. With the potato boxes as well, doing things like that. Obviously, this is another cost, but you can actually get a pallet lifter and be able to put them on a truck, and although so that might seem extreme to some people, it is actually quite a doable thing to be able to put the at least even one or two on a truck and take them to places if you really would like to have a small garden of your own, because it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I think that it should be everyone's right to have a relationship with the world. And it's one of the reasons why I love wildcrafting so much as well, because a lot of people can go and forage weeds and still feel like that they are gardening to a degree.
Yeah, even when we lived right in the middle of the city before we moved out here, and our apartment didn't have a balcony or a veranda. So we didn't have access to outside space at all. And so I would always have like a little pot of something growing on the kitchen windowsill. But we made use of the botanic gardens. So we kind of finish work or finish uni and make our dinner, pop it into a takeaway container, and then head on down to the botanic garden and eat it there, or head on down to,
Oh,
a park. I really love that about Melbourne, is those really wide median strips, and you look out and there's people having a picnic on them. Like, I grew up in Western Australia, and I was just like, I can't, like, people would just go, oh, you're absolutely bonkers if you did that kind of thing there. And even like walking around inner city suburbs, you've got trees growing on footpaths, and there's a little square around the base of the tree, and you can see people have gone out of their house and they've planted, like some geraniums or nasturtiums, or I've seen people growing culinary herbs in those. So I love the idea of like kind of encroaching from like private space into that public space. And then that's like,
yeah.
they're kind of happy for
I like that
people
too.
to walk past and, pick some parsley and things like that. Or, doing that urban foraging of, there's a bay tree hanging over the back of an alleyway, and you can kind of snaffle a couple of leaves or snip a cutting here and there. Like, lots of the plants in my garden I haven't bought, they've just been like swapped with people, or taken softwood cuttings and popped them in jars of water in my kitchen and grown things that way. So there's so many entry levels, and whether you have, not a lot of money, or you've got money, there's all different ways that you can start gardening. Grow something in an old boot.
I love if you're gonna start, yeah, it's somewhere you can start growing in an old boot. I love
Yeah,
that.
forgot where I
Um,
saw that.
that's lovely. And I wonder as well, I would like to know what plants are piquing your interest at the moment. Like you're perhaps working with the labyrinth. You've mentioned, perhaps your juniper and lilac, but are there any plants at the moment that are piquing your interest?
Yeah, well, it's a bit. I don't know. I used to think it was like a bit twee, but I'm really just researching climbing roses. So I've got a really tall fence out the back of our yard, and it's made out of big poles and reclaimed corrugated tin sheets, and I'm going to pop a bit of Rio up there. But it's just, to me, that's just a blank canvas. I'm like, I've got to get a plant there. So we're trying to make use of vertical space. So I'm looking at things that kind of climb and grow. So I've been looking at climbing roses, at growing some hops, perhaps, to cover that space. There's some beautiful. I went up to St Earth in Blackwood last a few months ago, and they had this beautiful golden hops just cascading over a fence, and I was just like, "Ooh, that's a good idea." And so, yeah, I just kind of look around and think of that stuff. What's another climbing one that I've been looking at? I can never. Is it clematis or clematis? Clematis. It's a native
I say clematis.
clematis.
I
Yep.
love my clematis. It's one of the best things I brought.
Oh, cool. Where have you got it growing?
They're beautiful. I've got it growing up a post on my veranda, and it's a purple variety. It has one of the most stunning flowers I have ever seen.
Yeah. Is it a scented one?
No, it's not.
No. And what is it, in a sunny
But it
spot
makes
or
sense
a
for you to
shady
be growing
one?
the. Oh, this one it gets morning sun.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it gets the morning sun. So, and it's quite prolific in the spring and the summer. And then it
Yeah.
completely dies back in the winter. It's so much so that you think it's actually dead because it goes quite brittle, but it always comes back.
Yeah. How many times have we done that? Of like just kind of
Oh,
bought.
thought that things were dead. No, it's never
Yeah.
coming back. Oh my God.
I'm such a shit gardener, and I'm like, oh no, it's just
And then
a perennial.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I swear it's the best feeling. Like every spring, watching the perennials come back and seeing their little leaves pop up and just going, "Oh my God, no, you're not dead." It's every year it happens. It doesn't matter how long I've been gardening
Mhm.
for. Every single year, I just have that moment of doubt, and then I love it when that doubt is squashed. I love that.
Yeah. And
You
same
know,
with like
it
all of
makes sense
the
with the rose as well. You being the cottage gardener, the cottage herbalist, the rose really makes sense for you.
yeah. It's funny, I've always sort of it's funny that I called myself the cottage herbalist because like I go, oh geez, it's a bit twee. And I don't feel like I'm very twee at
No,
all. But um I'm
no,
kind
I
of
think it suits you.
cottagey. Yeah. Little
Yeah, but
cottage
you also
witch.
like make cottage badass.
Bad cottage.
You know, yeah, yeah. Instead of it just being quaint, it's quaint and badass at the same time,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I love. Um,
Although
well, I
that just
also
made me
wanted to
think of
ask you before we end up.
yeah.
Oh,
I was just thinking
what did
of
it make you think
cottage
of?
Beatrix Potter. Like I lived in the UK for a little bit as a kid, and I swear Beatrix Potter and Brambly Hedge have definitely like influenced me.
Influence the rest of your life. Who would have
Yep,
known?
yep. 4 years old into Brambly Hedge and Beatrix Potter, and look at me now.
Yeah. Look, yeah, I was the same with lots of fairy books, and yeah, I like want to live an enchanted life. I always have, and I still do. Mm.
Yep, it's important.
I wanted to ask you about if there's anything. We're going to the end of our interview, but if there's anything that you wanted to share with the listeners, like anything that you've got coming up, yeah, any workshops or new events or anything you'd like people to know.
Um, just plant one plant in a pot and see where your life ends up. Like I think if someone just grew a parsley in a pot or a lemon balm in a pot and then had a cup of tea from that, I feel like that is a marvelous and excellent thing. But in regards to things coming up, I think you're testing my memory. I'm sure there's a herb for that. I've got a yeah, cue the dad jokes. A herbal honey workshop coming up with diggers at the Garden of St. Earth. So we're going to be looking at medicinal preparations with honey as a base. So we'll be doing like infused honeys. We'll be looking at oxymils, pilules, and then electuaries. I just love that because of the name.
I love the word electry as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So oldie
We
worldy.
Yeah, we might need to finish up because our power has just gone off and my computer only works plugged in. So
Oh,
yeah, um,
okay. Well,
yeah.
we'll leave it at that, and I'll yeah, share where everyone can find you.
Sorry.
Perfect.
I love you all.
That's
Bye.
all right.
Plant some
Much
plants.
love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me here on the Elder Tree. Please share this episode with someone you think may benefit from its narrative. The way we approach living systems can have profound impacts on environmental and social justice, so please remember that these acts of resilience, however small, are deeply necessary for the protection of our wild kin. Together, here at the Elder Tree, through these conversations and what we learn, we are working to cultivate change. You can unlock access to our treasure trove of wisdom by joining our Patreon, where we put medicine in the hands of the people. You can access this via the show notes and our website. Like, subscribe, and share however you can, as your support allows our vision to grow. You are the root system of the Elder Tree.